Hi, this is a quick video tutorial on finding the exact value of a relative minimum and a relative maximum using our calculators. So I've got some polynomial functions pulled up and I've got my calculator pulled up. This is a TI-83 Plus. It would look similar to a TI-84. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to graph some of these and talk about how we can use our calculator to find the exact value of our relative minimums and relative maximums. So I'm just doing number one here. I've already got it typed into my calculator, and if I hit graph, that'll give me what my polynomial function will look like. So what I'm trying to get us to focus on is this portion here and this portion here. Those are what's called relative minimums and relative maximums of our polynomial functions. In general, this polynomial function does not have a minimum y value. As you can see, it continues to go down and it continues to go up without boundaries, so it doesn't have a maximum y value either. But when we say relative minimum or a relative maximum, that has to do with the bounces and the turning points that are inside the function relative to the highest point it gets before it continues on without any more turning points. So right here, what we've got is our relative maximum, and here we have our relative minimum. Those are the lowest places on our graph that we can actually calculate that are not negative infinity and positive infinity. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use right here, I'm going to use the calc feature, the calculate feature. So if I hit second and trace, that's going to take me to calculate. So for the first one, I'm going to do the maximum, that's 4. All right, so now it asks me for the left bound. That is some point to the left of where I think the relative maximum is. So I could pick any point to the left of that point. So just anywhere, making sure I'm clear to the left, I can hit enter. And then now it asks me for the right bound. That's any point to the right of what I think that relative maximum is. So just make sure that you're cleared to the right. And once you're somewhere to the right, you can hit enter. And then it asks you to guess. Essentially, it asks you, are you ready to go ahead and get the value? And yes, I am. So I hit enter again. And it's going to give me that my maximum is at negative 2.421 times 10 to the negative 6. So what that would essentially mean is this is a tiny number. This is a negative 0.00060. Not 60, I'm sorry, 6 decimal places to the left is what I would move this decimal right here. All right, so it's a very tiny number, and that's how I would get what that is right there. And then in order to get what my relative minimum is here, I'm going to go back to calculate, so that's second trace, and I'm going to select minimum this time, number 3. All right, so I want my left bound, so make sure that I'm to the left of that, and I am right now, so I'll hit enter. And now my right bound, so I need to get on the other side. I need to get to the right of my relative minimum. Hit enter, guess. I'm ready to get an answer. Hit enter, and it's going to calculate and tell me that the minimum is approximately 2.67 for my x value, and my y value would be negative 2.48 approximately. All right, so that's how we're going to do it. Hopefully our numbers are a little bit nicer than what those are, but that's the process. So I'll go through a couple more of these with you just so you can see how this is. If we have to round, that's okay. We've been rounded to the hundredths place just for some accuracy purposes. Let's take a look at something like number 5, which is the x to the 5th. So we'll get back to y equals. We're going to clear that out, and that's going to be x. And we're going to use this exponent key to the 5th minus 4x to the 3rd plus 5x plus 2. Now, if I go to graph, I could see what it's going to look like. And I'm going to have a lot of turning points here. So what you've got to be aware of is the relative maximum is the highest relative maximum. So it's the highest turning point, and the relative minimum is the lowest turning point. So even though you've got several options, you want to pick the highest for the maximum and the lowest for the minimum. All right, so this here would be my relative maximum, and this here would be my relative minimum. Even though you have some other turning points like right there, the lowest of those turning points is here for my relative minimum, and the highest of my turning points is here for my relative maximum. So I could go back using the same process, second trace, to get to calculate. I'm going to do the minimum first this time. So I need to be to the left, and I'm going to scoot over and just pick some point to the left of where I think that is. Hit enter. Now I'm going to get over to the right, so make sure you've cleared it to the right. And I have. Hit enter. Guess, and I'm ready to say yes. Enter. Here we go. So negative 0.73. You can see that it's not all the way down to -1. So it's almost to -1. So negative 0.73 my x value. I'm sorry, negative 0.73 is my x value because I'm not quite to 1 there. And negative 0.3, I'm not quite down to -1. All right, so that would be what the value of my relative minimum would be. Now my relative maximum is going to come from right here. So now I'm going to go back to calculate, second trace. And I'm going to pick my maximum this time, 4. Make sure that I'm to the left of where that point is. Hit enter. Now slide over to the right. Make sure you clear it to the right. And then it's ready to guess. Enter. And my relative maximum is being calculated at 0.73 for my x value and 4.30 for my y value. And that's the process every single time. I'm going to use my calculate feature for my minimum and maximum for those relative minimums and my relative maximums to calculate those. You would just write down your x and y value as if it's a point, and that will help you with doing that. Okay? Okay. Final example, just to see me write out the whole process, just to be clear on what this would look like. So I'm looking at number 2 here. I've already got it typed into my y equals. When I hit graph, not sure what that was. When I hit graph, it's going to take me to what the polynomials graph would be. So this here would be my relative maximum. This here would be my relative minimum. So I'll go to calculate. There we go. Sorry about that. That was a little bit weird why I couldn't get there. So make sure you're on the calculate screen because you do have to tell it which one you're looking for, the minimum or the maximum. I'm going to do the maximum first, so I select number 4 here. All right, make sure you're to the left. So remember, I need to get to the left of this point. So go ahead and use your cursor and get past that. Make sure you clear it to the left. Okay, enter. Now I need the right bound, so I need to clear it to the right. Enter. And go ahead and tell it to guess it. So my maximum, and I'm going to have to round, my relative max was at 6.697. So 6.70 times 10 to the -7. So that's going to be a tiny number. All right, so I'll show you how you would write that, and then luckily my y value is 4. So 6.70 times 10 to the -7. So 6.70 times 10 to the -7. And then my y value was 4, luckily. So how would I write that? All right, so that's going to be moving this decimal place to the left 7 places. So that's going to be 1 left in front of 6, and then there's going to be 6 more places to move, so that's going to be 6 zeros in front of this. So 0.00000670, comma 4 would be the relative maximum. Now, before you get too nervous, not every single one's going to be like this. It just so happened that a couple of our examples happen to be those ones that were really close to the y-axis. So please don't get nervous that that's what we're going to have, but just keep in mind that this will occasionally happen when we have to use the calculator. So just be ready to adjust. All right, now let's find the relative. So that was the relative maximum. It will have a relative minimum. So we'll get ready to do that over here. Bring back up my calculator. Go back to trace. All right. So now I'm going to calculate my minimum, 3. All right. Make sure that I'm to the left because this right here is where my relative minimum will be. Hit enter. And now I'm going to pick something to the right. Make sure you've cleared it. And now I'm telling the guess. And so according to this, and I'll move this over here, 2.67 and negative 5.48. 2.67 and negative 5.48 would be my relative minimum according to my graph. And you can see that there, here, and here for my relative maximum and my relative minimum. Okay.